Hello and welcome to the Magic Mirror podcast. I'm your host as usual, Con the Trinket Mage, and with me is my co-host, 33L.
Hello.
Additionally, we have our other co-host here, Salubrious Snail.
Howdy there.
Today's episode, we have a pretty fun topic. We're talking about cards that we want to play, but haven't found a home for or just couldn't make work in a deck. So we're going to just pitch them here and maybe you can try them out at home. And then afterwards, we're going to get to your questions. But first, I have to thank today's sponsor, Card Castle, the easy way to sort your collection digitally. You can start scanning and sorting your cards today for free using our link below, and you'll get 1 free month of premium access. Thanks to Card Castle for sponsoring the podcast. So we have all brought a couple cards to the table. Why don't you start, Elk?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to start off with the one card that I wish I could play like unironically as like a funny gimmick commander. And that's Obnixlist Unshackled. He's 4 black for a 4/4 legendary demon with flying and trample. And whenever an opponent searches a library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. And whenever another creature dies, you put a counter on Obnixlist. Of course, I'm not interested in that mode. I want to like thermonuclear bomb people for tutoring. So in Magic the Gathering, we have Field of Ruin, Scheming Symmetry, Varagoth. There's Mellerin of the Mornsong. That's 4 tutors that can actually force an opponent to search their library. Obnixlist gets a little funny with Witchclaw Talisman too, like, oh, do you pop it or not? He's also just very fragile. But ultimately, I would like kill for some more Field of Ruins. Mill players would love that too in Modern, but in general, what I mean is I wish I could force people to tutor more.
Ob is such a funny card in general, although I think part of the other problem is that it's just not that useful as a stacks piece. Like, because in theory, library searching could also be a stacks effect, but a whole lot of library searching will be happening before you can get down your 6 mana commander. So it's a little tricky in that regard as well, even outside of the kind of Field of Ruin plan.
Yeah, it is handy that it's in black, so it's super easy to cheat into play, of course. Black is paying less than nothing for creatures all the time. But yeah, I that's definitely a big issue of Obnixlist, which is why I want more forced tutoring options, because that makes Ob a little bit more enticing, right? To have these options that are like, you are now searching your library, you do not get a choice. There is no may in that rules text, pal. Take your 10. It's a really funny concept to like give someone a vampiric tutor and then they also like die because of it. It's a very funny trade-off that I wish I could play.
I really like these Punisher effects. I know like objectively they're not very good usually because your opponent's always going to choose the option that is best for them. But I think they're fun. They force decisions, they force thinking, and I think punishing players for tutoring is also like kind of a good thing because it's very powerful to tutor, so it's potentially worth taking the damage, and it makes an interesting decision.
Yeah, 10 is a lot. I almost wish that this card was like a 3 or 4 mana creature that was like 6 life loss, because that would be a little bit more like, ooh, I'm making a decision. The same way that Rurik Thar, 6 damage is like, okay, I feel like I have a legitimate decision over whether I want to cast this non-creature spell. Whereas
you say that like every Rurik Thar player isn't jamming their Carnage Dominus, whatever his name is.
For sure.
And then it's just like it's only 12 now. But yeah, I understand what you mean. I could see the criticisms there, but I do generally just like this card a lot.
For sure,
like 10's a ton, but it's also hilarious.
I could see this being like a future synergy package that gets printed, like Punisher and then cards that play into Punisher. That feels like the sort of thing that could be a thing that Wizards of the Coast pushes hard. Now, that's probably going to make it a bummer for you because suddenly you're being handed on a silver platter the thing you wanted to just have barely enough kind of support to cobble together. But, you know, I think it is still something that we could see in the future.
I also love that it punishes green ramp. You want a rampant growth? Well, think about that. You know?
Yeah, that aspect of it, putting kind of a punish on usually a form of ramp that is very unpunishable, like basic lands. What punishes that?
Exactly. Like, what are you going to negate the cultivate? Like, that usually doesn't feel good. You want to give yours, Alex?
Yeah. So I'll start with one that I chased for a long time last year, and that was Enigmatic Incarnation. This is a 4 mana enchantment. It's 2 colorless, a green and a blue. So 4 mana Simic enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's mana cost. put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So this card is kind of a sort of pod effect, creature to enchant, or enchantment to creature rather. Now, timing restrictions are somewhat potent. I think if it was on upkeep, it would be stone cold unplayable. I think end step, it's not as flexible as you would like, but it's still workable. Converting between two different card types makes it pretty tricky, though. I was kind of working on a Bant deck for this before Duskmourn came out, and coming to the conclusion that enchantment creatures were really, really good for it, because they effectively, you can just normal pod them. You can just, sacrifice an enchantment creature because it's an enchantment, find another enchantment creature because the creature kind of stair-step your way up between a nice variety of options. So I had kind of a control deck based around enchantment creatures. Then Duskmourn came out, and we got a whole bunch more options, including the Overlords. I think there was like an actual Pioneer deck around Overlords and Enigmatic Incarnation for a while. So there are more options.
Do you want to explain that synergy for
so the
viewers?
Overlords, they have some impending cost where you can cast them for a cheaper cost, and they are not creatures for like 4 turns or something. So you cast your Overlord of the Flood Pits, 5-mana creature for 3 mana, has impending 4, then the next turn you play your Enigmatic Incarnation, you sacrifice it to find something else. At that point, you've already gotten the ETB off of it, and you're sacrificing it as a 5-mana card. You get to find a 6-mana creature, so it's really good like that.
Yeah, I think in Pioneer, they're using like Overlord of the Mistborns to go from 7 to 8, or Overlord of the Boiler Bridges to go from 6 to 7, which getting a 7 or 8 drop out on like turn 5 is pretty good.
Yeah, Final Fantasy did just come out with Saga creatures, Alex. Like,
it could be your time. It could be your time.
Especially if you're rocking Falcospara and you can remove the lore counters from your creatures to cast.
I'm sure it's an idea I will come back to some more, because there continues to be possibilities for it, and maybe I do need to come back to it without kind of the strong sense of what I'm doing that I had when I was building kind of this enchantment control deck. Because I really did have kind of a rather strong kind of, this is a toolbox deck that I'm ramping heavily, and then doing this kind of cool, flexible recursion engine-y thing, whatever. I think there's probably a lot of room to play around with this card outside of that, and I'll probably check it out at some point in the near future.
Okay, my first card is Guided Passage. It's blue, red, green for a sorcery that says reveal the cards in your library, period, which is awesome. And then it says an opponent chooses from among them a creature, land, and non-creature, non-land card. You put those 3 in your hand. So it's a 3-mana draw 3, but it's any 3 cards in your deck of an opponent's choosing. Initially, this might seem kind of bad, right? Because isn't your opponent just going to give you like basic land, rampant growth, and like random creature? Yes, unless you use it politically. A lot of times you can be like, hey, there's a big scary board. Why don't you grab me a board wipe? And then I also get 2 cards, So it can be Demonic Tutor plus 2 cards, or 3 Demonic Tutors if you make a deal.
I feel like if it's ever 3 Demonic Tutors and you're not like losing beyond hard, somebody's been duped.
I can't imagine a scenario where you also get exactly the land you want, I guess, but like, you might be able to finesse like a board wipe and some other creature.
I've definitely done the, there's an arch enemy, one of the other opponents hands me a fact or fiction pile, I hand it right back to them. I've done that before, but that feels a little less extreme than literally picking out the ideal cards from an entire library.
Yeah, I really like Guided Passage, like as like not a card that's good, but a card that's very fun. Just like presenting your library and being like, hey, you want to fetch me a board wipe for this? And like maybe give me a little treat and I won't mess with you. And then they're like, yeah, sure. That sounds like a fair trade, I suppose. I don't want to get bombed by the token player. Here's your Pyroclasm. And you can have a divination or something. I don't know. No, it has to be a creature. It has to be Muldrift. Would be the option. But I like the card's play.
I love the idea of the card in general.
For sure.
I love the idea of like playing this card. I just don't have a teamer deck. I don't have a deck in the color combination to play this. The color requirement is the tricky part for me.
Yeah, it's like I feel like if you're playing like a 5-color or 4-color deck, you've probably got better things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's definitely the sort of card where I could see building a teamer deck and any teamer deck that wants the card feels like it should be on a good starting point. Like it should be doing interesting things already. So definitely not terrible. I feel like if nothing,
maybe we'll find a teamer commander I like.
I feel like if nothing else, this card just makes your opponents look at your magic cards, which is great. I love making my opponents look at my magic cards.
Yeah, reveal your library is funny because it's not to the person you choose. It's just
Yo,
in
check
general.
this out,
Everybody
guys.
gets to look at your entire deck list. You just flip your deck over. Okay, what's your second pick? Elk.
My next choice is Throne of the Grim Captain.
Oh my god,
from Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
I don't know this card. What?
So like, okay, hang on. It's just like a personal millstone, right? So like perpetual timepiece or something.
Okay.
It also has the mode of like shuffle your library into your graveyard. You can use it like that. I specifically want to craft it. So it's a 2-mana artifact with tap mill 2 cards. And it says craft with a dinosaur, a merfolk, a pirate, and a vampire, and pay 4 mana. So that means you exile those creature types from among creatures you control or from your graveyard. And then it turns into a 7/7 menace, trample, lifelink, hexproof. And when the Grim Captain attacks, each opponent sacrifices a non-land permanent, and then you can put a creature card exiled from the crafting, tapped and attacking under your control, which is just hilarious.
I was kind of laughing reading the front half, but honestly, the payoff is kind of huge. That's like a legit threat.
This is like an Ormondal. Like, an Ormondal is like pretty threatening.
Yeah, that's good.
The first home I kind of wanted to put this in was in a triple meld deck before I had Kellen, where I'd be running Brizella Brizella's the name of the flip side. Bruna Gisela, that meld combo. I'd also be running Titania Argoth from Brothers War. And then I'd be running Grim Captain in so it'd be a triple meld. The Grim Captain isn't a meld card, but you know what I mean. Deck with at the helm Kethis, the Hidden Hand. Because this is a legendary artifact you can recur or exile to Kethis to recast something. And it's also just a mill thing for Kethis. But then I ended up building Kellen, and now there's too much overlap there. At the end of the day, it's probably gonna end up being a Simic deck because Merfolk, Pirate, and Dinosaur are very heavily in that. And then you need a black. So maybe Sultai because Vampire, or you can do White Bant. But I don't really like 3-color decks too much. They feel a little bit too open to me. So it's a tough card to build around flipping, like actually trying.
Yeah, maybe you need changelings as well or something.
I know, but it feels like cheating.
It's also like the quality of the creatures you get on the backside does matter. Obviously, you could do the better ones first, but you can't just do like 3 changelings. You're also going to get a bunch of kind of dog shit creatures.
The Grim Captain is the reward, you know? Who cares about the crappy
for sure.
Yeah, the merfolk's always the shitter of the equation.
It's just a merfolk looter or whatever.
Yeah, like the merfolk's always the shitter, but the vampire, dinosaur, and pirate all have the possibility of being giant bombs. Because all of those creatures also have insane combat damage triggers from time to time, or enter triggers.
Yeah, and the creature's tapped and attacking, which is really big as possible.
I guess you could run like something like a Tishana.
Yeah. I love that the backside has hexproof. I hate
that's the
all these
part.
like flip, meld, merge, craft, whatever cards that are just unprotected on the other side, and it feels so bad when you're like, I did the thing, and they're like sword splashes, you know? And it's like, okay.
By the way, on the backside, how is this motherfucker getting anywhere, moving at all without flying? Where's his goddamn legs? Wizards of the Coast. That's a dinosaur mouth.
That's why he can't fly. He hobbles around on dinosaur legs.
I'm just imagining all the teeth getting like sanded flat by having to walk on them.
Anyway, yeah, I really want to flip this artifact one day.
This is a hilarious card. I always look at this and I go, wow, that condition is impossible.
Hey, Buried Alive is a really good Magic card, Snail.
It is, yeah. If you run a lot of Graveyard Tutors, like I know there's the one that like Graveyard Tutors a thing every turn from like the University set or whatever, Strixhaven. That card is good. I don't remember what sets are called.
Universities.
There are options here. Just like the face value of you need to be running probably multiple of each of these card types, which are very different and specific. It's not like the kind of the subclass types, like the party mechanic where, you know, there's a wide variety of warriors, wide variety of rogues, like a merfolk, a dinosaur, a pirate. Vampire feels a little bit more generic, but like those other 3 are specific. But yeah, it's very tempting. The backside is hilarious.
Okay, now what's your second pick, Alex?
Yes, my second pick is Audacious Resapers. This is a card. It is a 3-mana, 3/3 red creature. Tap, sacrifice an artifact to reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest is on the bottom of your library in a random order. Audacious Resapers deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. So this is kind of like a
It's madcap.
It's like it's like a polymorph effect for artifacts, basically. But it's
Yes.
and you can do it multiple times, which is cool. But it's very kind of potentially damage expensive. Now I feel like there's a decent wide variety of different decks you could run this in. Like all you really need is a deck that can create some sort of artifact tokens and also a deck that has a decent density of artifacts in it. Because I think the way this card is designed, it kind of is there to punish any deck that does conventional degenerate polymorph nonsense, where you run like 3 creatures and just play a token and sacrifice. You can't do that with this. So it's kind of inherently going to be a little bit more normal unless you're willing to take a massive life total cost. And so I think in principle it feels relatively flexible, but I just haven't found a red artifacts deck that I'm fully happy with where this feels fully at home.
I've seen this come out of my friend's Chisgoria deck. That's the giant affinity for artifacts dragon. So it goes really wide with tokens and then just full of artifacts to spin into and cast with affinity for artifacts. And then Audacious Resapers is here. Not like Chisgoria needs help being consistent, because if chances are you're having like maybe 10 to 12 artifacts in play with that deck. So Chisgoria always costs 3.
Oh, and Chisgoria is good with like a library packed full of high cost artifacts too.
It's just such a good commander.
Yeah, but the thing is, no, Chisgoria is awesome. My friend runs that deck at $50 budget, unsleeved deck. The most expensive card in the deck, there's like 1 Embercleave, which is like $8. But it's like the deck is like consistently decently scary. It's won games of Commander against like, all the other people's decks. Once again, $50 budget, like just running all the cards. Like it runs like Bumbleflower's like Share Pot, which is like a 2-mana like Spinovish Saw or like Unstable Obelisk, but it makes a food token when it enters. So it's just 2-mana discount your commander by 2. And then sometimes it'll activate it in the late game for like 6 or 7 and blow something up.
I need a copy of this share. I need this for Talon.
This guy. Anyway, the other mode for Reshapers though is top deck manipulation. Like any brainstorm effect, any scroll rack is insane with Reshapers,
that's true.
right? Because you can just always put an artifact on top and just shit into play.
That's
you can do it instant speed, right?
Yeah, I haven't considered that.
Yeah, and then you run Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Oh man, and then we have fun.
We did it. We broke Agatha's Soul Cauldron.
All of your creatures are Audacious Reshapers after you stack your library with Scroll Rack.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. I might try like top of library thing. I want something more interesting than like a mystical tutor or a Scroll Rack. Not obviously wouldn't work a mystical tutor, like some sort of artifact tutor. But yeah, there's good potential there. That
yeah, you got your brainstorms out there. It's not impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
You can play Library of Lang and then looting effects. Library of Lang lets you loot to the top of your library.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, Library of Lang's really good. There's also Academy Ruins as well.
Yep.
This reminds me of Madcap Experiment, which there was a modern deck for a while where you play Madcap, which is effectively the same. You don't have to sacrifice an artifact. It's just flip until you hit an artifact and you take damage. And in modern, you would just play 1 copy of Platinum Empyrean, which is an 8-mana 8/8 that says your life total can't change. And since the spell resolves completely before the damage happens, you'd have the Platinum Empyrean in play, and you wouldn't actually take any damage.
Ooh.
So it'd be like 4 mana, you put this 8/8 into play, you don't take any damage.
Oh, that's
it's kind of funny. It allows you to still do the polymorph cheating thing, but specifically with this one card.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, there's also some, like in the is it like you run Brainstorm, Brain Surge, Dream Cache maybe deck with this. Shape Anew is a card that is very good. That's just an artifact polymorph. So you get access to redundancy.
Honestly, this card might be playable in my Joyride deck I'm putting together. I've already ordered it, but
the cost of running Brainstorm and Brain Surge is really low.
Yeah, especially if I decide to go into the Mindslaver package, I'm already putting in the Academy Ruins. I'm already putting in maybe some other things like that. So that could be kind of neat. But that's for later.
All right, what's your second one?
Mine is one I think I talked to you two about it off podcast, but Sift Through Sands. This card is so funny. So it's blue 1 for an instant arcane. Draw 2, then discard a card. And then it also says if you've cast a spell named Peer Through Depths, which is a 2-mana instant that looks at the top 5 for an instant or sorcery, puts it into your hand. And you've also cast a spell named Reach Through Mist, which is a 1 blue instant that draws a card. Then you may search your library for a card named the Unspeakable, put it on the battlefield and shuffle. And the Unspeakable is this 9-mana 6/7 with flying and trample. And when it hits a player, you get to get an arcane card back from your graveyard to hand. It's so bad. This card is so bad. This is like one of the most stupid commander decks I'm gonna cook up, but
This is
want to
your
play it
bracket
in
2 deck.
something. This is barely making it out of bracket 1. There is Firemind's Foresight, which lets me search up a 3 mana, 2 mana, and a 1 mana instant, which grabs all 3 cards in one go.
Firemind's Foresight is a good card.
Legacy staple right now.
Firemind's Foresight? Oh.
Yeah, it's an Omni show. It's in the sideboard for the Burning Wish.
That's actually really good in Omni show. That makes sense.
It's really good.
I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this deck, to be honest.
I'm looking at what arcane spells I want back, and the only one I can think of is Death Denied. So if my stupid fucking Unspeakable dies, I can get it back into my hand and then recast it, which is like really bad. Oh, you can Goryo's Vengeance loop? Hang on, Footsteps of the Goryo and Goryo's Vengeance. You can like keep looping the Unspeakable. You have to find a way to flicker it, but that's not too hard with blue. In fact, isn't there a blue flick? No, there's
Arcane now.
Arcane, my bad. Arcane is such a funny word.
I'm thinking maybe like Tormod is the commander here, because when I get things back from the graveyard and I'm looping these arcane spells, it does give me zombies. Like I benefit from that, you know?
Watch as I perform like a 12-ball juggle to make a 2/2 that's tapped.
Isn't Tormod creatures only? I don't know. One or more cards.
Yeah, no, Tormod is any card, so I will get 1 free 2/2 when I attack with my Unspeakable.
Yeah, I feel like you're the biggest Tormod fan who's ever existed.
I love this card. It's so cool.
I love Tormod too. It's just like, holy shit, man. Like the 2/2 factory exists, and it's you don't need to do all this work. You can just like play Adeline in like a Glorious Anthem if you want 2/2 so badly.
Going from point A to point B is really boring. Going from point A and taking a crazy detour to point B, which is one singular 2/2 tapped, is my jam. That is how I build commander decks.
Yeah, and my thought is maybe like you can on Halo the Painter it up.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, give the 2/2 some more benefit besides just being dorks that exist.
Wait, so this is a Tormod in the 99 type thing now?
Yeah, you can run Tormod in the 99, I guess. And then, it's like...
Tutor up your Tormod for Unspeakable loops.
It's not even a loop. It's like 1/2/2 a turn.
Yo, that's value.
Well, at this point, just run Talrand.
If I casualty the arcane spell and I've spliced onto arcane, I get all of those effects, right?
I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So like Desperate Ritual goes kind
of... Okay, wait, hold up.
Yeah, and most arcane spells that are worth running are...
Is this a deck?
It's not a deck, Con, but it's workable.
You could try to make it a deck, I believe.
Grixis Arcane's non-zero. You get to run Evermind too, which is one of the weirdest cards on Earth.
Oh.
It has no mana cost. It just says draw a card. It's blue.
That's...
Slice under Arcane, 1 and a blue. But if you copy that spell a bunch of times, it's kind of funny, right?
Why isn't it 1 blue to splice?
It's bad.
Why is it?
Because it's from Kamigawa. I don't know what to tell you.
Does it need to be worse?
These cards are not good.
I love that they even have the parentheses spells without mana costs can't be played. Like no, get rolled. Don't even think about it.
This is gonna be a deck full of like OG Kamigawa foils of the worst cards you've ever seen. It's gonna look awesome. I have a
zombie factory powered by the worst cards you've ever seen in your goddamn life. Hell yeah, I dig it.
It's the name of the deck. Would you like to give your third selection?
Yeah. My third one is Teriel Recker of Souls.
That was the alt commander for Kalia, right?
No.
Oh. I love this card.
Yeah, it's super old. It's from the Kalia precon. Yeah, it's funny. The problem is with me is I cannot play this card without either feeling like I'm dying of low floor or optimizing the fun out of it. Those are the two paths that are before me with Teriel, because she's 7 mana, which is a lot. That's a lot of mana if I want to command zone her, for instance. So 7's a lot. I would need to give her haste right away. I'd want her to untap during each opponent's untap step, because I do love my Drum Bellower. That's just a 2 and a white. Each creature you control untaps during each opponent's untap step. You can also White Plume Adventure, which has a very similar effect. There's even a room from Duskmorn that does it as well that I forgot the name of. There's one card that's hilarious with Teriel, which is Life's Finale. It's 4 black. Destroy all creatures. Then search target opponent's library for 3 creature cards and put them into their graveyard, and that player shuffles. So you can forcefully buried alive an opponent after board wiping, and then on curve afterwards, like Arena of Glory Teriel Recker of Souls into play, and then yoink something at random from their yard, which is just amazingly funny. The issue is that play is a 6 mana card into a 7 mana card, and you need a haste enabler. And then on top of that, Teriel can get really boring if you do like Thornbite stuff, which is kind of what you need to do to make her viable at bracket 3. I kind of like the idea of like a Teriel like targeted graveyard hate deck where you like target the graveyard hate. But now we're just talking
Right.
about like optimizing the randomness fun off of Teriel, right? But it feels like my main sticking point is Teriel's floor is so low. It's abysmal. She's 7 mana, she enters, she explodes. And like that's dies to removal, but it's a mana disadvantage that is incomprehensibly bad. Right? That's the main issue, is the mana disadvantage because she's 7. If she was 5 or 6, we'd be talking. That's fine. I can take some
almost
removal.
built this commander as like a super grindy Mardu control list, with the idea being I just play like all these like the whole deck is just removal and card draw basically. And then my commander is the win con. I just play it, and then if it gets removed, I'll play it in 2 turns. And if it gets removed, I'll play it in 2 turns. And I just do that until it sticks. I just tap it until I win.
Yeah, that's not like my favorite way to like, because I want to build around Teriel.
I mean, I didn't build the deck.
Yeah, the issue is like building around Teriel any amount of way that I want to is like also just kind of killing the fun that the card has. Like trying to defeat the floor of this card is also destroying some of the fun, but also the floor is so low that I can't even reasonably want to play it.
I feel like when I look at this card, I'm like, this seems like a fun card in the 99 of a janky battlecruiser deck, which is what a kind of Kalia precon is. Putting this card in the command zone is just so tricky.
Yeah, even then it's like I'm reanimating in Mardu. Like I'm gonna get Teriel back. Like yeah, and you can like Agatha's Soul Cauldron that I guess. Look, activated ability. You can put that under. You can put her in the stew. But it's like I don't know. It's just tough.
For sure.
Would you like to move on to yours, Alex?
The card and this is kind of more of a category of card, but I will use Jaxus the Troublemaker as an example. Jaxus the Troublemaker is a 4 mana, 2/3, red tap, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step, activate only as a sorcery, and then you can also blitz it out for 2 mana, which gives it haste, and you sacrifice it and draw a card at end of turn. So this card is what I like to call red flicker. It's things that make temporary copies of creatures until end of turn. And I really like these cards.
Me too.
Because I think there's so much fun stuff to do with flicker in colors that aren't blue and white. And certainly you can just run, a white-black flicker deck. You can just run a blue-red flicker deck, etc., etc. But I had a Rakdos control deck that I was brewing for a while that was Carder Doomscourge in the command zone and a bunch of these kind of guys that, make copies of things. There's some other options as well, like kind of Blade of Selves, Nexus of Becoming. Soul Foundry is another card that kind of lets you create copies of creatures in a more roundabout way, a little bit worse way.
Is Flame Shadow Conjuring?
My favorite is Delina. I love Delina Wild Mage. That's the one that's the dice rolling one.
Oh, yeah. But all these cards are so funny to me, and I just want to find kind of a nice control shell for them where they can work out. But I found that it's kind of tricky to find good payoffs. Like you can just put like some really heavy duty removal spells on there, but I find that gets a little bit stale. So I prefer to do like creatures with discard on ETB or some other form of kind of hate on ETB. But those just aren't that strong generally. Like there's just not a lot of amazing ETBs in the non-flicker colors, if you can possibly believe it. Aside from the really gross ones like Grey Merchant.
I had a Delina deck for a while before I ended up retiring it and made Zerzoth out of the pieces. And with Delina, one of the big things is that the tokens enter tapped and attacking. So haste creatures with cool combat damage triggers are actually like very good with Delina. So things like Blade Griff Prototype, which we've talked about on the podcast before, just like making 3 of those, and then hey, you take 9 and you also get to pick like 3 things to blow up. Go ahead, which is hilarious, right? The funniest one by far was Aspiring Champion, which is just a menace 3/3. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you sacrifice it. If you do, you reveal cards to the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card in the battlefield and shuffle the rest in your library. Yeah. And if the creature is a demon, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So because all the red flicker enablers, as you said, give haste, cool combat damage triggers like these are actually like super viable. You don't have to just.
That's kind of neat.
Like combat damage triggers work just as well.
That might be worth looking into.
Because they're effectively ETBs. Also, Goblin Chain Whirlers like insanely disgusting.
Yeah.
As a magic card. So yeah, very funny. And also Combustible Gearhulk exists. There's all sorts of cool red ETBs, but yeah, like you said, there's a very limited suggestion. Most of them just deal damage. But combat damage triggers are where it's at when it comes to unique effects.
I played Jaxus in the 99 of my Grenzo list, and it was part of this like toolbox package, because you can use Imperial Recruiter to get Jaxus, and then Jaxus can make copies of Imperial Recruiter, which lets you then search up any other power 2 or less creature in your deck.
You're sounding like me right now.
Well, don't act like you invented toolbox decks. I've been doing this for years.
Yeah, I love that with Kiki. It's classic with Kiki Jiki, right?
You can do basically the same thing. Where Imperial Recruiter grabs Kiki makes copies. Yeah, I play that in my Grenzo deck. It's pretty awesome. They just make a little toolbox thing. I've thought about putting Jaxus in the command zone and just playing stuff like that, just building a toolbox deck. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, the best part about Rakdos Flicker too is you get Saw in Half, which is just the undisputed GOAT. It's better.
That card's crazy.
That's true.
It's black ephemerate.
Yeah, I prefer the idea of having like a payoff in the command zone and just running a bunch of these cards, but it also could be kind of neat to try out one of these in the command zone. Like the tricky thing with that is just that it puts you in monocolor, and I like 2-color decks. I don't like monocolor decks.
But you get a really good one in Boros though with Duke Older Raven Guard.
True, that one's solid.
That card's like a billion mana.
No, wait, what are you talking? Okay, Duke Older Raven Guard is 6 mana. 6 mana isn't bad though, because Duke Older Raven Guard doesn't have to attack. It's at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature gains Myriad. So every threatening ETB creature you play is a must-kill target. Because if you ever drop Duke Older and move to combat, that thing's getting Myriad.
Yeah, that just means your Duke gets blown up.
Dies to removal here for real though. Like, but you can also run.
I know I'm just saying like dies to removal, but
Voice of Victory and stuff now. Like
I feel like 6 mana commander in Boros is rough.
You get immediate value with it at least. Like you immediately get 2 flickers effectively off of it. 2 more ETBs.
Yeah. That's the whole point. Is like every creature you play, it needs to be killed, or Duke Older needs to be answered. Like in either way, you got the value off the first round of the ETB anyway.
I should look more into Red Flicker because that is fun, and I haven't come back to this deck in a while. But
the Jaxus package is easy to fit into a deck. Just Imperial Recruiter Jaxus, and then
for sure
you're off to the races. Okay, my next one is a very interesting card. It's Herald of Lrak. 6 generic and a black for a 2/4 avatar with flying. It has cumulative upkeep, gain control of a land you don't control. This creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control but don't own. When this creature leaves the battlefield, each player gains control of each land they own that you control. I have no idea what deck I would put this in. It is just such a crazy card with an insane line of text. Cumulative upkeep, gain control of a land. It's like a nutty, it is just a flying beater. It's so unique. I want to play it somewhere, just anywhere, but I have no idea where I would play this.
This is such a U card. It's a very cool card. I like the card a lot, but it is an extremely U card con. I love it.
You could run this in some sort of Nick Fit package. The issue is that there's like no better card to do it than Nether Explorer. But like all these like group hug, like, ooh, I'm ramping everyone. And then you Herald of Lrak and you like clone it and then just start gaining.
I don't know.
Oh, like Obeka? It is a 7 mana 2/4, so I do not believe many.
The answer is 20%. All right.
Obeka, 20% of Obeka decks. Okay.
20%? Okay, damn.
I like that it's in 42% of Dakon Blackblade decks.
That's awesome though. Wait, that's funny.
I'm curious what's the demographics of the people who are playing Dakon Blackblade? Like who builds a deck with a random Legends silly guy? That's funny. That's possible. Yeah.
Voltron players. I don't know.
I've had a friend who's done it.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, Elsha who smiles at death because it has power.
Oh, that is kind of funny. Yeah.
I see Hashatons playing it a little bit. Like there's, anything that lets you cheat the mana cost, it's kind of funny to play. It's a really slow value.
That's funny.
It's my favorite thing about Herald of Lrak is like remove it is like the correct answer, but like also like don't play lands into it is the other answer.
What do you mean don't play lands into it?
Like such a funny idea. Just like if no one has removal, just like so the kiss. But eventually you run out of lands to steal.
Oh my god!
And then you can't pay for the cumulative upkeep.
I feel like if you fail to pay the cumulative upkeep and you haven't won the game already effectively, then something has gone wrong. Like if you have all of the lands, then like what's going on?
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I guess you just don't have any like draw engines. You're just stalled out with all the lands.
No, it'll be big. It's a flying beater.
Oh, that last that last ability isn't like a Fiend Hunter attached to the cumulative upkeep either. So like if you dress down
Yeah.
or stifle that, does it? You just
I
keep the land,
believe you could
right?
stifle
Yeah,
it. Just keep the
it's
lands, yeah.
not it's not like Banisher Priest wording or anything. Like you do get to keep them if you can avoid, that trigger resolving.
Oh, did this go in like a stifle knot, like reanimator pile or something?
Yeah, you run this in a Stifle Knot deck. You probably run it with Venser.
Yeah.
Not
Sure,
Venser.
yeah.
What's his name? It's the Urtai. 2 blue black self. Yeah, you stifle this trigger, draw a card off the Urtai, and then,
Yes,
God, that's
That's
so
a really
funny.
goofy
like,
card.
You need to, if people know that's coming, they're going to be horrified. But if they don't know it's coming, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we'll remove that in a bit. That's a goofy ass Ice Age creature. Not Ice Age, Cold Snap. But if they know that the stifle's coming, they're going to be spooked.
Very good with
Yeah.
Proliferate as well, of course, because those time counters on the cumulative upkeep.
Do you want to give your fourth one, Elk?
Oh yeah, another Elk Angel, of course. I have Archangel Avacyn. 3 white flash flying vigilance. When it enters, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And then when a non-angel creature you control dies, you transform Archangel Avacyn at the beginning of the next upkeep. Turns into a 6/5, which deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. And it's red on the back. So it's white on the front, red on the back. I played this as a commander for a little while, and I dismantled the deck overnight when someone asked me, why don't you just play Beevuu the Volatile? And I'm like, you posit a really good point.
Beevuu the Volatile is actually like a pretty decent card.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm like, I'm just not, I just feel bad playing this now in the command zone. But I would love this in so many 99s, but I just can't run it in 99s because it's Boros identity. And Boros is typically go wide as payoff or like as a game plan. So Archangel Avacyn flipping and thermonuclear bombing my board is not ideal. And also, I just don't really play that much Boros to begin with.
Yeah, the flash save on it is fun. I know there are a couple other cards like that. I want to say one was printed in like Assassin's Creed or something, but that style of card is definitely fun, where you get that sort of save.
Yeah, if I could run this in, I would. It would be hilarious.
I think we're gonna play this in Boros Blink.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, good
right? Because you just flicker it to like gain indestructible a bunch of times, and then flicker your combustible Gear Hulk.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. That's what I was doing with Archangel Avacyn in the command zone. I would flicker her and I would give her Death Touch with like a Basilisk Collar equipped because she doesn't leave the battlefield when she transforms. She keeps all equipment. So Basilisk Collar gives the lifelink and Death Touch to her other side. With this, where like Beevuu is like way better for this, right? Because Beevuu just does 7 to each non-legend.
Yeah, Beevuu is basically just
So like putting her in the command zone is kind of not like an option, but I really like her with. Man, I really want to recapture like the feeling I have in Limited, where you like cast Bruna, the Fading Light, and you reanimate the Archangel Avacyn that you also drafted. That was one of my favorite decks I've ever had in Horror Cube. I had the Brazella Meld pair, and I had Archangel Avacyn as well. That deck was stupid. Awesome. It was so funny.
All the kind of slightly evil coded angels.
Yeah, no, I just had like all the insane Eldrazi touched angels from Innistrad in that deck, and it was unbeatable. Like Archangel Avacyn up until like a year and a half ago was
solid
in
card.
Cube still.
Shall we move on to your final card, Alex?
Yeah, my final card is going to be one that this is going to be my fakest of answers, because the other 3 cards I've said have been ones that I've kind of genuinely thought about pretty heavily. Final one I'm going to go over is Psychic Surgery.
Yes.
This is a 2-mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent shuffles his or her library, you may look at the top 2 cards of that library. You may exile one of those, put the rest on top of that library in any order. So I love like a stacks effect that is not that heavy duty, but is very annoying and makes opponents. I feel like this sort of effect is exerting outsized pressure. Like in theory, it's not actually that bad to have an opponent kind of occasionally exiling things from your draws, but it feels really bad. Like knowing that your opponent is going to nail the better of the 2 cards on top of your library is so kind of brutal. And I want to have a deck where I want this card, but it has not quite happened yet.
Would you believe me if I told you I played this in a deck?
Fully, yes.
Oh yeah, this is a con card.
Yeah, it was in my Zur, the Enchanter Lantern control list as one of the like tutor targets against like tutor heavy decks, because then you would kind of pseudo lantern them whenever they shuffled. It wasn't that good.
It's never going to be like an amazing card just because it's not even that hard of hate against shuffling. I just love it in principle.
Unlike Obnixlist.
True, yes. Obnixlist is forceful hate.
Yeah. Obnixlist like punches your opponent in the mouth. This one like kind of just like flicks them.
Tickles
yeah,
them.
like it like doesn't really like exiling the top 2 cards, one of the top 2 cards of your library is just so inconsequential unless you specifically vampiric tutored.
Yeah.
Then it like kind of matters, right? You kind of really want to flash this out, don't you? Just like someone casts vamp and you go psychic surgery. Oh my gosh.
True. It is brutal against that style of tutor.
I think you want to play this in a deck that will Isochron Scepter. Oh no, that only grabs instants. Damn it! I was gonna say Isochron Scepter, Scheming Symmetry, but that doesn't work.
You can't do that, sadly.
Panoptic Mirror. You can Panoptic Mirror Scheming Symmetry.
Even just repeatedly Path to Exiling and making people think about whether they actually want to search is funny to me.
Okay, wait, we're in Esper. You get Isochron Scepter, Path to Exile, Panoptic Mirror, and Scheming Symmetry, and you're just like zapping away their deck.
Yeah.
I always search my library for the lands. Like this is just such an inconsequential effect. Like this is like this up there with like mill matters, which it doesn't. Oh no, you milled my win con. Like it doesn't.
And that's
really
what I mean.
matter.
Like it's not a meaningfully significant effect, but it is an effect that makes people, it exerts psychic pressure against a very specific selection of Magic the Gathering players.
Against bad Magic the Gathering players, it does psychic damage. Is amazing. Yeah.
For a short tangent, this card reminds me of Thought Picker Witch, which is a card from original Ravnica. It's one where it's terrible in Commander. Like you sacrifice a creature to look at the top 2 cards of an opponent's library, then remove one of them from the game. So kind of similar effect, but like you have to sacrifice a creature to do it. However, I put this card in a micro cube I built where each player had like 15 or 20 card decks. Hilarious there. So good.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move on to my last pick.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is a card I recently saw a patron play this as their commander, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is such a me card as well. And it's Ratchet Field Medic. It's 2 and a white for a legendary artifact creature robot. It has more than meets the eye for white and 1. It has lifelink. It's a 2/4. Whenever you gain life, you may convert Ratchet. And then when you do, return target artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gained this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And then the flip side of it is a 1/4 with lifelink and living metal. Whenever 1 or more non-token artifacts are put into a graveyard from the battlefield, it flips back. Basically, a lot of that is a ton of words to say you just loop baubles. So basically, if you have like Sunbeam, Spell Bomb, and Implement of Improvement, you can just keep like sacking and reanimating them back and forth as it just like flips constantly. You just draw cards and gain life. That's about it. It's just funny and it loops baubles.
You get 1 free Lantern of Insight stack per turn.
Yeah.
It's the challenge. How do we make every commander Lantern control?
Yeah, exactly. It does bring it back without like a finality counter. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's back forever. It lets you like actually legitimately, like if you're gaining 5 life off your Sunbeam Spellbomb, you can get your Solemn Simulacrum back, and then you can sacrifice it to like other things and like loop stuff around. And if you have Salvaging Station in there, sacrificing the Solemn untaps the station, which then lets you put the Sunbeam Spellbomb back into play and then get the Solemn back, and you're ramping in mono white.
Gosh, the one of the worst colors to ramp, mono white.
If you go onto the live section of this channel, you can see my patron win the game with this deck, which is pretty funny. Spoilers for that game, I guess. But he did a lot of flipping around of weird artifacts. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's like the commander's definitely fine.
I want it in the 99 of like a Jeskai artifact because I want other baubles.
It's a good fiddly commander. It's like it's kind of similar to there are like a few different white artifact commanders like Oswald and Teshar. Those ones are obviously better than this, I would say, but this one definitely.
Oh yes.
Yeah, those ones win the game, but this one certainly like toy maxes by like just like bouncing the card back and forth.
Yeah, this one's maximum fiddle factor.
If anybody's learned anything about me from this podcast, it's that I love like fiddling and looping around useless cards for almost no benefit.
It's a good hobby. I respect it.
Have you ever built a Sagas deck? Because oh boy, do I have a archetype for you.
That's all of our cards, right? That's all we did. All of them? Yahoo! In the comments, I'm very excited to hear what cards you have tried to make work that you couldn't, and what you think of these 12 that we have presented here. We're moving on to the Beseech the Mirror section. This is where you ask us questions. You just have to put mirror in your comment, and we'll get to it on the podcast. Zenz76 asks, Mirror, I sacrificed the last 42 seconds of this podcast to ask, how do you come up with the podcast episode idea?
I don't know, man. We just bullshit it. Like, just like, what are we talking about? I don't know. Magic the Gathering cards.
Khan sends a message to us 2 days before the podcast, and then he sends another one day before the podcast, and then like 3 hours before the podcast, we both respond.
Yeah.
2 days before, what do you guys want to talk about this week? One day before, hey, what about this suggestion? And then like 3 hours before, you guys are both like, we don't like that suggestion.
Me and Stale are awesome to work with. We're very good co-hosts.
We came up with this podcast in the Discord call right before we were about to do a podcast about a different topic.
I do come up with some number of topics, so I
No, I do. I will say, you guys both have come up with topics. It's not like this isn't me calling you out.
It's me calling us out, because that does happen a lot.
A lot of it's very last minute. This specifically, I went to I have a big checklist of video ideas and half-baked things, and I scroll up to ones that have been on the list for a while that I couldn't come up with a good video idea, and then I pitched them for the podcast.
Anyway, if there's one thing to take away from this, we are very professional about the podcast. This is a very serious environment.
We demand utmost respect in the comments, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is a place of learning and knowledge and not bullshit.
All of our guests have come away with the idea that we're pros, and they all want to be back on the podcast.